The canopy above breathed in shifting shadows. Pale green light filtered through thick layers of alien foliage, dappling Lieutenant Jace Rennick's shoulders as he moved silently through the undergrowth. Every step was calculated. Uraka wasn't a planet, it was a pulse. Alive, dangerous, watching. He crouched beside a gnarled root that curled like a claw, brushing his gloved fingers across a track. It was fresh, too large to be anything but a Vorak. The apex predator of this moon. Flesh ripper. Bonecracker. And now, limping. Lieutenant Rennick, the voice crackled in his ear. You've deviated from the survey path by 83 meters. Explain. Jace tapped the comm lightly. Got something. Could be wounded. I'm following up. That's unauthorized. Return to the path. Now. He switched the channel off. The jungle hummed. Birds that looked like scaled ravens darted between trees. Somewhere deeper, a scream echoed, not human. Jace didn't flinch. He'd spent years on death worlds, and Uraka was just another beast with breath. He found it in a clearing, collapsed against the base of a fungus-covered stone, body trembling. The Vorak was massive. 12 feet snout to tail, dark obsidian scales chipped and matted with blood. One leg twisted at an unnatural angle, and the dart still lodged in its flank hissed with residual toxin. He stepped closer. Its eyes opened, amber, not red. Not wild. It growled low, a warning, but made no move to rise. I'm not here to finish the job, he murmured. His fingers moved slowly to his belt. Not to the weapon holster, but the small satchel of Terran biosalve and coagulants. The kind he'd used on wolves back home. His heart pounded as he approached, inch by inch. Above, camouflage drones observed. So did the alien dignitaries, hovering in orbit or in station camps. All saw. Few understood. Lieutenant, this is your final warning, came the voice again, tighter. Back away from the Vorak or we initiate containment. He ignored it. He knelt beside the creature. Its breathing hitched, then slowed. Jace poured a thin strip of silvery gel over the dart wound, watching the foam hiss as it neutralized the toxin. The Vorak didn't strike. Instead, it closed its eyes. Trusted him. Yeah, he whispered. Thought so. A sound rustled to his left. Commander Vorel Kex's scout drone hovered into view, optical lens zooming in. Kex's voice was cold and amused. Fascinating. The human plays healer to a beast that would have eviscerated him. Jace didn't look up. Maybe because it knows I'm not here to kill it. Or it's too weak to bother. You disgrace your rank. That creature is a genetic apex. It's killed 43 operatives this cycle alone. You're cuddling with death. Jace placed his hand, bare now, against the Vorak's side. Its breathing steadied under his touch. A low, rumbling purr vibrated beneath his palm. I've met death, he said quietly. It doesn't purr. Hours passed. The clearing dimmed. The creature hadn't moved much, but it was healing. Jace rationed his supplies. Laid out a perimeter of deterrent flares for scavengers. Still, he didn't leave. On a ridge above, alien officials gathered at the viewing bay, a curved shielded dome embedded into the cliff. Species of every kind watched. Cold eyes, curious eyes. None like his. Dr. Sharanra, a Larathi xenopsychologist with tendrils for fingers, leaned forward. He's touching it, voluntarily? Kex snorted. Sentimental primate behavior. They bond with everything, dogs, rodents, even plants. But the Vorak does not allow proximity, Sharanra countered. It should have gutted him. Inside the clearing, the Vorak lifted its head and, in a slow, deliberate motion, nudged its massive skull into Jace's lap. The observatory fell silent. Back at base camp, chaos bloomed. Screens flickered with footage. Kex slammed a clawed fist onto the holotable. We quarantine the area. Send a kill team. This ends now. Sharanra held up a hand. You saw what we saw. It didn't just tolerate him. It chose him. Dangerous animals don't choose. They submit, or die. A lower-ranked Threxan officer shifted uncomfortably. What if it's more than instinct? Kex glared. This is why humans are a mistake. They blur lines. Emotion clouds protocol. They bond with monsters and call it progress. That night, beneath a crescent moon that shimmered blue over Uraka, Jace sat beside the sleeping Vorak. He whispered quietly, not to be heard, but because the silence had earned it. You're not just muscle and teeth, are you? You're lonely. Like us. The Vorak's tail thumped once. A soft chime broke the calm. A notification on his forearm screen, demand for immediate withdrawal. Armed unit inbound. Termination order issued. He looked at the creature beside him. Not a weapon. Not a threat. Just misunderstood. He tapped out one word in reply to the command, no. And then, he stood between the Vorak and the approaching soldiers. The soldiers came fast, silent and armored, shadows against the undergrowth. Jace saw them before he heard them. Threxan enforcers, tall and sinewed, eyes hidden behind polarized visors, rifles pulsing with stun charges calibrated for apex-level threats. The Vorak stirred behind him, groggy but stronger than before. Its wounds had closed overnight into pale scars, the toxin gone. It stood now, towering above him, yet eerily still. Jace stepped forward, palms visible, voice calm. Stand down. It's not hostile. The lead enforcer's voice was clipped. You are in violation of United Species Protocol 7A, unauthorized contact and interference with designated lethal fauna. Step away. I won't, Jace replied. Not while you're pointing weapons at it. They shifted. One tapped his comm commander, we've made visual contact. Subject Rennick is non-compliant. From above, Kex's voice pierced the channel. Deploy containment. If he resists, sedate him. Jace turned slightly, his eyes locking with the Vorax. Don't move. No matter what happens, stay. As if understanding, the Vorak growled softly but didn't advance. The soldiers moved. Two encircled left. Another aimed a suppression net gun. Jace raised his hands but didn't retreat. Suddenly, a shriek caught through the air. A blur of crimson and black lunged from the trees, Uraks, jungle lizards with jagged jaws. One of the creatures latched onto the leg of the soldier closest to Jace, dragging him down with violent thrashes. The others panicked, opening fire in every direction. The Vorak didn't wait for a signal. It moved like lightning, tearing into the attacking Uraks, jaws snapping, claws cutting through scale and sinew. It didn't touch the soldiers. Just the threats. The enforcers, stunned, lowered their rifles. The clearing became quiet again. Blood smeared the moss, but it wasn't Jace's. The Vorak returned to his side, its breathing steady. Still think it's mindless? Jace said. One soldier nodded slowly, lowering his weapon. They escorted him back to base, but not in cuffs. The Vorak followed close, always 3 steps behind, eyes watchful. Inside the council dome, the tension crackled. Representatives from 12 species sat in a tiered arc, half their eyes on Jace, the rest on the holographic footage looping behind him. The Vorak, mid-pounce. The saved soldier being dragged free. The moment it stopped, resting beside Jace without provocation. Kex stood across the room, arms folded, voice sharp. Lieutenant Rennick acted recklessly, endangered lives, and established an unapproved bond with a hostile entity. He defied orders. Dr. Sharanra leaned forward. He also prevented a massacre and demonstrated an unprecedented behavioral response from the Vorak. The beast responded to primal imprinting, Kex barked. Not ethics. Not loyalty. Biology. Jace looked at the council. You're wrong. He turned to the screen behind him and tapped his wrist pad. A new feed appeared, his personal helmet cam logs. It showed the Vorak bleeding, snarling, near death, and then, accepting the salve. It showed the way it lowered its head, how it stayed beside him through the night, how it protected him without command. No leash. No signal. No trick. Just trust. An Avari delegate, all feathers and silver eyes, clicked its beak. But why? The Vorak is classified as untrainable. We've tried for decades. Jace nodded. You tried to control it. We earned its respect. Kex sneered. Spare us Terran romanticism. This isn't Earth. We're not taming wolves here. You're right, Jace said. This isn't about taming anything. It's about seeing. You look at that creature and see a weapon. I saw someone in pain. Silence. Dr. Sharanra shifted. Perhaps it's not the Vorak that changed. Perhaps it's our understanding that must. Kex slammed his fist on the console. We are scientists, not poets. This sets a dangerous precedent. Another delegate, a gruff, beetle-shelled Krogan, grunted. Or a hopeful one. Later, in the debriefing chamber, Jace sat alone. The Vorak was held in a transparent energy dome outside, unrestrained but observed. Sharanra entered quietly. You stirred something today. He sighed. Not sure if it's good or bad. She smiled with her eyes. That's how change starts. He stood, walked to the glass, and placed his hand on it. The Vorak patted over, leaned its massive skull against the same spot. Sharanra whispered, What do you plan to do if they vote against it? I'll leave with him. That would be exile. Then I'll be in good company. Back in the council hall, delegates murmured as verdict time approached. Kex paced like a cornered predator. He stopped near Jace. You think this ends with you and your pet? You've invited chaos. Jace didn't look away. Maybe. Or maybe I reminded you that not everything strong has to be feared. The doors closed. The vote began. And outside, the Vorak waited, not leashed, not caged, but watching. The chamber's lights dimmed. The silence felt ceremonial, not diplomatic. 12 delegates stood behind their curved consoles, faces illuminated by the faint blue glow of the verdict panel. Jace remained still at the center, eyes forward. Outside, beyond the reinforced viewing glass, the Vorak lay waiting, alert, tail flicking with slow rhythm. Each species had one vote. Pass or reject. Trust or exile. The panel beeped. One green light. Then another. A red. Then green again. Kex's jaw tightened as more lights blinked into place, forming a line of decision. He turned to the council before the final tally locked in. This is short-sighted. That creature is a killer. So are we all, muttered the Krogan delegate, not looking up. Sharanra addressed the room. What you saw wasn't submission. It was empathy returned. That bond, unprecedented as it is, offers us insight we've failed to grasp for decades. Perhaps the danger isn't the Vorak, it's our arrogance. The final vote lit up. 7 in favor. 5 against. Verdict, accepted under conditional observation. The chamber stirred. Jace exhaled, shoulders dropping with relief he hadn't realized he was holding. His voice didn't rise. He simply nodded. Thank you. Kex didn't wait. He stormed toward the exit, cloak whipping behind him. Sharanra approached Jace with measured steps. You'll be given full clearance to continue field integration with the Vorak. Surveillance will remain. But you've done what no one else has. Jace glanced at the creature beyond the glass. I didn't do anything. I just didn't run. She smiled faintly. Sometimes, that's the bravest act of all. 2 days later, the jungle welcomed him back. The Vorak moved ahead of him, graceful now, body recovered, eyes aware of every shift in the leaves. It didn't wear a collar. No tag. No signal implant. Just a single metallic ring on its foreleg, the council's symbol etched into the surface. A token of monitored alliance. Scouts had set up discreet sensor towers across their route. Drones watched from above. But no one interfered. They reached a riverbank where twisted crimson trees dipped low to drink. The Vorak paused, staring at the water's reflection. Then, with surprising gentleness, it stepped aside and let Jace pass first. "You're learning manners," he joked. The Vorak snorted. Water sprayed his boots. Back at camp, whispers filled the halls. Footage of the trial had leaked across systems. News feeds spun stories: the human who tamed death, the Vorak that bowed, Earth's dangerous gift of compassion. Most painted him a hero. Others a risk. Jace ignored the noise. He focused on behavior logs. The Vorak had begun vocalizations in his presence, patterns, not random. Its reactions were no longer primal but responsive. As if trying to communicate. Shiranra observed from time to time. What if it's more than a bond? What if you're awakening something dormant? Language? Intelligence? Or maybe, connection in a form we never considered. That night, an alarm blared across Base Camp 3. A rogue tribe of Uraks, drawn by artificial signals, had breached the perimeter. Their numbers were larger than expected. The security grid buckled. Defense turrets jammed. Jace ran without waiting. The Vorak, sensing urgency, broke into a sprint beside him, shoulders brushing branches, claws churning dirt. By the time they arrived, the chaos had peaked. A young Avari biologist was pinned beneath a collapsed storage rig. Creatures circled, closing in. Jace didn't hesitate. "Stay with her," he shouted. The Vorak lunged. Not with rage, but precision. It intercepted each threat with terrifying control, never letting one reach the girl. Its growls were timed, communicative. Strategic. Jace dragged the rig off the Avari, pulling her clear. Behind him, the Vorak finished the last Urak with a clean, controlled blow, then turned, ensuring Jace was unharmed. Soldiers arrived late. By then, the predator stood still, covered in blood not its own, eyes bright but calm. No one dared lift a weapon. One soldier whispered, "It was protecting us?" Jace nodded. "All of us." Next morning, the council summoned an emergency hearing. This time, Kex wasn't there. Instead, an elder from the neutral tribunal addressed the hall. The Vorak's response last night saved 5 lives. Footage confirms strategic intervention. The council now considers its classification eligible for review. Gasps echoed through the room. Shiranra stepped forward. Lieutenant Rennick's actions were not miraculous. They were human. He saw what we couldn't. And the Vorak answered with loyalty. Jace added, "I didn't create that. I earned it." The elder turned. "Do you accept guardianship of the creature under Universal Ethical Charter?" Jace looked out the window. The Vorak stood there, silent and still, watching him. "I do." Weeks passed. The Vorak, now nicknamed Rook, became the symbol of a new program, Sentient Kinship Initiative. Earth's gift was no longer its weapons, but its empathy. Other species began re-evaluating their own Deathworld fauna. Studies surged. Cultural walls began to crack. One evening, Shiranra sat beside Jace near the same clearing where it all began. "You changed the story," she said. He shook his head. "No." He did. They turned as Rook approached, quiet, powerful, utterly present. It didn't bow. It didn't need to. It simply laid its head on Jace's chest, gently, deliberately, before curling around him like a living wall. The jungle went still. Above, stars blinked. And somewhere beyond them, the galaxy shifted. The broadcast went live across 17 systems. An unfiltered, direct transmission. No narrators. No diplomats. Just a man and a creature, once feared, now revered, walking side by side through a jungle once called unlivable. Jace didn't dress for spectacle. No medals, no flags. Just standard field gear, slightly worn at the seams. Rook padded beside him, massive as ever, eyes scanning the terrain not for danger, but for understanding. Above them, satellites orbited in silence. Every major species watched. Some with awe. Others with discomfort. "This is Unit 7, Jace's voice crackled through the uplink, steady and untrained. "We're here not to conquer. Not to colonize. But to listen. To walk in step with what we don't fully understand." Rook halted. Its ears twitched. Then it turned its head to the trees. Jace followed its gaze. From the shadows emerged something new. 3 smaller Vorax, leaner, juveniles by the look of it. Not aggressive, but hesitant. Their scales shimmered differently, glimmering with a muted violet sheen, as if the jungle had bred them for silence. The observers watching from orbit held their collective breath. Jace knelt, slowly. Rook didn't growl. It didn't move. It simply watched. One of the juveniles stepped forward. Tentative. Uncertain. It sniffed the air, then Jace's outstretched hand. Then it did something that sent a ripple across the stars. It sat. Not cowered. Not snarled. It sat, like a student. Rook growled low, not in threat, but command. The other 2 followed. Back on Zenthari Prime, within the High Senate Hall, debate roared. "They're organizing," shouted a senator with a face like folded iron. "You don't see it? They're forming hierarchy." Shiranra, now a lead delegate, countered calmly. "And is that not what defines civilization?" Kex had returned, bitter and unmoved. "So now we're calling apex beasts a civilization?" "Call it what you will," she said. But they watched him. Then they chose to follow. That's more than instinct. That's culture. Meanwhile, Jace sat at the riverbank, watching the young Vorax drink. Rook rested behind him, tail curled like a protective arc. The sound of boots on moss broke the quiet. Shiranra approached, carrying a small scanner and a satchel of data pads. "You realize what's happened, don't you?" He nodded. "It wasn't about me. It was always about what we brought with us." She crouched beside him. "Empathy? Choice?" She hesitated. "They're mimicking social behavior. Deference. Communication through vocal tones. Even gesture mirroring." One of them tilted its head when I spoke. "They're not just learning from us," Jace said. "They're adapting." Rook snorted gently. One of the juveniles came closer, curling beside it. Later that evening, the jungle fell into golden hush. The camera drones followed Jace as he moved through the undergrowth with purpose. He carried nothing but a sample vial and a field journal, symbols of study, not domination. He spoke softly, mostly to himself, but the galaxy heard. "There was a time when every species here looked at us and saw war machines. Fire. Force. Conquest. They thought strength was volume, measured in impact." He knelt beside a vine the Vorax had carefully stepped around earlier. "But strength, real strength, is the power to hold back. To feel. To let something wild get close without trying to break it." He turned to the drone. "Rook didn't become tame. We became understood. In the days that followed, others came. Carefully selected Terran exobiologists. Lurathi philosophers. Even a few cautious Zenthari tacticians, invited by Jace under new alliance terms. Each day, Rook greeted them without hostility. The juveniles observed from the distance. The fear never left entirely. Nor should it have. Rook remained what it always was, dangerous, capable, untamed. But now, there was context. Respect. Dialogue without words. On day 15, something unprecedented happened. Rook led them, not Jace. Deep into the jungle, past mapped terrain, into a cavern veiled by thick, sap-heavy vines. Inside were markings. Claw-scored symbols. Repeating patterns arranged in circular form. They weren't random. They were language. Primitive. But deliberate. Shiranra gasped. These aren't nests. They're glyphs. Jace whispered, they were trying to speak before we ever showed up. She stepped closer, eyes wide. And we never thought to listen. The High Council convened again. But this time, Earth wasn't silent. Ambassador Alara, a quiet diplomat known more for silence than speech, stood center. You called us brutes, she said. You called us unpredictable. Too emotional. Too wild. And now you watch, in real time, as something older than your laws speaks to one of us in a language you never thought existed. She tapped the hollow feed. Footage of rooks circling the glyphs. Of the younglings copying shapes in the dirt. You can fear it. Or you can learn. On the final day of observation, Jace stood in the clearing alone. The drones had gone. The broadcasts had ended. But the jungle remained. Rook approached. Jace looked up. What now? Rook didn't answer. It simply lowered its head, and nudged the datapad from his hand. Jace smiled. Yeah. That's enough writing. He stood. The two walked toward the trees, one man, one myth. And somewhere, beyond Uraka, across the glittering skylanes and glistening trade hubs and towering cities of species too proud to kneel, an unspoken truth took root. The galaxy had always feared Earth's wrath. Now it had to reckon with Earth's heart.